because it's not been washed. Right? So indigo comes off. So as I wear it, but the indigo doesn't come off equally, right? It comes off at certain points, right? It comes off at the parts where you sweat. It comes off at the points where it's creased. It comes off at the parts where it's rubbed. It comes off at all sorts of different places where it's intensified. So what people do, what I've done, and what I will continue to do is you wear this, right? And you wear this for a long period of time. So I have another pair of jeans. I bought this a few years ago, and I wore it for over a year. No washes. Never touched water. I wore it for over 300 times. Never touched water at all. Okay. And then I took it, so at the end of that time, it looked like this. Okay. And then at the end of the time, I stuck it in a bathtub of cold water and waited a couple hours, and the water starts to turn blue. But what happens is all the places where the indigo is rubbed off, all the places where it contains, you've been wearing it all these times, it wears off into lighter colors, very light colors. And other places where it hasn't worn, it doesn't. So this is the pair of jeans that was washed one time after wearing it for a year. Just like this. This is what it looks like. This was only washed one time. So I wore it like this for a year. And then I put it in the bathtub, I take it out of the bathtub, hang it up to dry, and then it looks like this.
That's how they make jeans?
That is one way you can make jeans. That's not how they did. But the way they do it is they put it in a washing machine and wash out the indigo for you. They rub it with sandpaper or with a machine. But you notice a lot of things about this, right? If you were to look closely, you can see that there's actually an imprint on here, on the right, on the left side here on your right. Imprint here, where my wallet was at that time. There's a stretch mark here where I guess I'm too big for these jeans. It's almost ripped. There's actually a hole in the back here from where I keep a money clip and keep cash. Right? You look at the back of the legs, is what these are called whiskers. These are all creases that appeared, right, from where, actually if you were to look closely at these jeans, you could actually see them, right? But on this, you don't see anything, right? It's just dark blue, right? You put this in the wash, you start to see this, right? And everything, everything from the down to the whole thing. All of these things, like the knee is right. The knee is a little lighter, stuff like that. Right? This was in one day, just from going into the water. This turned into this. Just in one day. Now, if I had not worn these at all, and I just stuck them in the wash, it wouldn't be like this. It would just be all evenly distributed, right? But because I wore this for about a year before washing it, all of a sudden all these things started to come out. Now, these things were all there. But because it wasn't washed, because it didn't go into the water, you couldn't see it. You didn't know it was there. That's exactly what happens in the story today. If you've been here the past few weeks, you know the story. There's been a group of people that have been saved by God, rescued by God in many ways, and they come into this problem in their journey. The problem is this: on one side of them, there is a big sea. There's water. They can't get through it. They're wandering through the desert, and they're walking through it, and then they get to this big sea, and there's water. Most people at this time of history, they don't know how to swim. But even if they knew how to swim, they wouldn't be able to swim to where they need to go. It's just too far. They have no boats. They probably never even have any idea of what a boat is. There's no airplanes. There's no helicopters. There's no way. They're stuck. They need to find another way to go around. But as these people, probably over 1 million people, were there at the sea trying to wonder how they're going to get through the sea or around the sea or whatever, they also start to hear something. They see the water in front of them, but they also hear the sound of horses. Now the horses and the sound of chariot wheels, iron or heavy metal wheels commonly chariots are an instrument of war. It's basically the equivalent of, maybe today the equivalent is kind of like a bazooka. Something that one or two or three people might have that operate together. But it's a weapon of destruction. A chariot is not something that people just go on just for fun or just for beauty or just to show, to ride. It's an instrument of war. It's a heavy instrument pulled by a horse or multiple horses that's meant to run people over. They attach all sorts of things to it to make sure there's maximized damage to anyone who might survive getting run over. Sharp things. There are people in it have weapons that they would execute or use them with a sword or with a bow or spear as they were going by people, or maybe as they passed them. And 600 of these chariots are coming after these people, and they intend to run these people over. Any survivors will be taken as prisoners of war and go back as slaves to Egypt. So these people are there, over 1 million people there, just figuring out they have this water on one side, and they have chariots on the other side. They don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to survive this. In their eyes, there's no way out. Visibly, they can't see a solution. You could think, well, maybe God will do some kind of miracle. He will send out lightning to destroy them, right? Or maybe he'll create some boats so that they can get across the water. But God does something a little different. God uses wind to blow against the water. And as he blows against the water starts to separate. And you have to remember, you might have heard this story before, but for these people, they'd never seen anything like this. Water was something that people drowned in, or people drank. But this was not something that nobody ever just goes in the water. And as this water starts to separate, as the wind starts to blow it, they see the water moving, and a path starts to come. I don't know how big this path was, but it probably wasn't just a single file line. It was a huge path with walls of water going up towards the sky. And as these walls of water came up, they started to see something they'd never seen before, the bottom of an ocean. Even today, I think there's a lot of the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, that we haven't ever even explored or seen. But for these people, they had never seen a TV or a smartphone or a YouTube video. They didn't even see the bottom of a lake. And now they start to see the bottom of this sea, S-E-A-C. They see vegetation, they see rocks, they see things that they see muddy ground that they've never seen before. They see the water spread out on the sides, maybe even see fish or animals start to come falling out of it. Who knows what this looked like. And God provides a way out. And it seemed like there was no way. It's an amazing miracle, an amazing story that God would provide this way out. But I think what's more amazing is to think about what this means for our lives today. I would love to tell you, because God saved these people in a way that you couldn't see and in a way that they couldn't imagine. I'd love to tell you, if you've got problems in your life, you can trust in God, right? He will save you from it. I'd love to tell you, you didn't study for the exam on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever. Don't worry. God will make sure you get an A. I'd love to tell you, you broke your arm, but don't worry, God will heal it, I'd love to tell you that your friend or family or someone who's sick, God will heal them. They'll be okay. God does do these things. God does work miracles in our lives. But that's not what he promises here. That's not what he is showing you here. What he's showing you here is that God is the type of God who makes ways out of things that you don't see. In in situations where you can't see and you probably didn't even know what was going on. In those situations, God works in ways that you can't even imagine. If you were a person back then in this crowd of people, there was no way you predicted that the ocean, the sea in front of you, was going to split and you were going to walk through it. There's no way you could predict it of the journey it would take for you to have the faith to walk through it, hoping that the wind is not going to die down and we're not going to come, the water's not going to come back on us. There is no way that you could have imagined that 1 million plus people would get to the other side. And then as the Egyptians and their chariots were coming through, that God would decide at that point to bring it down and destroy them and to save you. See, God works in ways that sometimes we can't even imagine. We can't even see. We don't even realize that He's doing these things. And I think the greatest example of this is obviously Jesus. Jesus came to this earth, and He came as God, and He came as a human. And He came in a situation as a baby. He came as a blue-collar worker. He came as someone who people didn't think anything much of. And He was, in His life, ridiculed, sentenced to death, and died, being nailed up on a tree, on wood, naked, stripped of His clothes, embarrassed, ashamed, and that they intended for Him. But yet God used that to make a way for you. God used that in a way that people would not expect. In the same way that He used when He did something a miracle for these Israelites through the sea. See, this story tells us who God is. He doesn't tell us or promise us that life will be easy, or God will answer our prayers always the way we want. But He tells us who God is. That even when we don't see it, even when we don't understand what He's doing, that God is doing something. And God is working. God is delivering. When I was a teenager, I was reading through the book of Psalms. I was probably about 13 years old, 14 years old. And I came across one particular psalm. It's Psalm 77. And it so moved me that I decided to write a song. So as probably 13, 14 years old, and I sat down on the piano and I wrote a song about this song in the Bible. And I was thinking about playing for you guys, but then as I was working on it, I was like, I don't actually remember all the lyrics, and this is before the internet, right? So I was like, it's gone, it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, I guess I could rewrite it, but it's just, I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere, but I lost it, and it's just, pre-internet problems, right? It's gone. But I wrote the song. It had several verses and and a chorus and a bridge even, and on the piano. I wrote it in the key of C because it's really easy to play. But the song was basically, I took verses out of this psalm, Psalm 77, and I'm going to read part of the psalm, Psalm 77, and which the verses that really resonate with the song that I wrote. So this is from Psalm 77. It says this: I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me. When I was in distress, I sought the Lord. At night I stretched out tiring hands, and I would not be comforted. I remembered you, God, and I groaned. I meditated, and my spirit grew faint. You kept my eyes from closing. I was too troubled to speak. I thought about the former days, the years of long ago. I remembered my songs in the night. Then I thought, to this will I appeal, the years when the Most High stretched out his right hand. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds. Your ways, God, are holy. What God is as great as our God? You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the peoples. With your mighty arm, you redeemed your people. The waters saw you, God. The waters saw you and writhed. The very depths were convulsed. Your path led through the sea, your way through the mighty waters, though your footsteps were not seen. Obviously, this psalm, we don't know for sure, but it seems to be remembering this miracle that God did. That God would take his people through the water, even though his footsteps were not seen. That's the miracle of this passage. That's the miracle of this story. That God is there even though they couldn't imagine what he would do. They couldn't even see his footsteps. They couldn't see his presence. But he was there. And if that's the kind of God who would do that, and that's the kind of God that you worship and that you follow through Jesus Christ, what does that mean for you? I don't know what you're struggling with, what you're challenged with, what you're hurting about today. But for me, as a teenager, I guess 30 years ago about, that changed so many things. About the things I worried about, the things I was concerned about, the things that I didn't know. Because sometimes God will do things that you can see. Sometimes I think God will do miracles that you will be able to praise him for and acknowledge. But other times God will work in ways